All right, welcome back. Relative Conscious. My name is Thomas Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
This is the hot spot.
Gentlemen and lady, this is the hot spot. You will enter it at your own risk.
All right, so what's the resolution for today?
Resolve. America should ignore respectability politics.
All right, you're not affirmative. Let's go and get started.
Definitions. America being the American people, not necessarily the government. You'll see why in a second. Ignore, just forget about it, disregard it, act as if it doesn't exist. Respectability politics are vaguely defined as a social political construct, kind of like race, or that operates in tandem with race, wherein this hair is not going to fly in the workplace, right? It's too curly, it's too big, it's too black, it's too nappy. It's not going to work. You got to get the fade. You got to line it up and look plain. Maybe go aggravated. There's no way to offend there, right? Black women, afro, curls, not going to happen. 4C, impossible. Dreadlocks, never. And so on and so forth. Recently, as recently as last week, an American medical journal published an article that was an analysis of how doctors were patronized and were viewed by potential patients when patients were given the opportunity, or when those conducting the study were given the opportunity to see their social media, and they concluded that these women should not be in bikinis on vacation, and they shouldn't be drinking, having dinner, and having fun like everybody does on social media, right? And I'm not talking about drinking like getting drunk, a wine, right? They shouldn't do any of that, because that will hurt their performance in the field. Their ability to serve and render aid to people will be hurt, because they won't get the respect of a doctor because they're too sexy. They're looking good. They got a little skin out. And just throw it away. Throw respectability politics away. For one, you have to be free, right? America is progressed, contention one, by our asserting our freedoms. If it weren't for a radical speech of a Malcolm X, if it weren't for the radical organizing of a Marcus Garvey, though these are men who were vehemently opposed by the power that be, their legacy is left in our remembrance of their ideas, right? So if Huey Newton, if Eldridge Cleaver, if any of the Panthers did not have their iconic garb, their iconic afros, sure, they did what they did. But the unfortunate fact is, without the imagery, without them shirking respectability politics and just being who they are, we lose some of the impact. And so you, as an everyday person, of course, you're not, Joe Blow is not Malcolm X. It's just a matter of fact. That's a rare person. None of us are. But every day you can do a silent protest in simply asserting your femininity, asserting your queerness, asserting your blackness, your non-whiteness in your everyday expressions. And so not only is that going to push our society forward in normalizing the other, and no longer making it other, but making it us, because America's filled with us. But furthermore, we add diversity and open the door for greater contributions. We know that America, just outwardly, like not even in an abashed way, profits a lot from S1B visas, right? So people coming from other countries to do awesome research. This is another reason why all the academies, Stanford, Yale, Harvard, Brown, vehemently opposed, MIT, opposed Trump's closing the borders for coronavirus and kicking out all of their students. Because like, no, we need all these foreign people. They're doing excellent work, especially in the medical field, as I mentioned earlier. And so if we normalize the other, the feminine, the queer, the black, etc., then that opens us to greater input, and we have more diverse input. We know things are ultimately going to be better. So forget what the white person says. Be you. Be black and proud. Black is beautiful. Do express yourself, regardless of what may be respectable. As long as your product is good, as long as you're a righteous person who's doing the right thing and you're working hard and you're contributing, it shouldn't matter.
Right. So the negatives argumentation against it, right? I'm going to concede that, like, in your everyday life, do you, right? So be black, be proud. Be, as Catherine Cleaver said, we're black and beautiful, got the afros out, right? do you, right?
This brother here, myself, all of us were born with our hair like this, and we just wear it like this because it's natural. Because the reason for it, you might say, is like a new awareness among black people that their own natural appearance, physical appearance, is beautiful and it's pleasing to them. Dig it? Isn't it beautiful? All right.
Right, but in politics it's different, right? And so I think that's a key difference that should be made, right? So like, Obama can be a black man at all times, right? He can always be what he is, right? But I think politics is different because this is an issue we have many times when it comes to how the left talks about issues and then the Overton window, right? So, respectability politics in politics is framing ideals in a way that the Republicans or the right can hear it and not immediately regress from it, right? So when we say, abolish the police, there's a reason why Joe Biden is not saying that. He's saying we need to reallocate funds, rethink how we do it, right? So the people on the ground, in their everyday lives, being who they are, being black, they can say abolish the police. But in politics, Joe Biden cannot say that because Joe Biden won't get elected if he says that. This is a real issue. We talk about abolish ICE. So we talk about, real...
abolish prisons.
Yeah, abolish prisons, right? We start talking about political ideals that are very much in the ether, considered to be out there. Because to be way above, way out where we're at, right? That is a place for conversation to have for people on the ground. But in Washington D.C., in these meetings I was in, these ideas get laughed at the room, and you can't get into the room. You can't make legislation, right? So I know the argumentation many times is that forget respectability politics because I need to be me. I need to say things for real, right? But you got to make laws because laws still get made at some point, right? So if you want to be, if you just want to do you, and then the Republicans just win, you're gonna live in a world that's much worse, right? So, if we can come to the table, we can make negotiations, and we can solve these problems and pass legislation. We can make life a little bit easier. And this is what This is the reason why President Obama, I wouldn't say told down his blackness, right? So he was always black in who he was, but he definitely, when he talked about political issues, used different terminology. He always very careful what he said. He always thought clearly before he stated something. This is the reason when you talk to politicians, and you start saying things about we should abolish the police. What about Medicare for all? They're very calculated in how they speak, and people see that as lying. Not only that's lying, that's understanding that I have something I have to make. I have to go behind a closed door room. I have to talk to people who are obstructive, who are callous, who just don't want to work with me at all. But I have to go inside that room and I have to make these arguments to them. And therefore, I gotta use respectability politics. I gotta look for the medium ground, right? So that's why I think respectability politics in a negative form of view, right? Be black, be you, do you in your everyday life. But in politics, the American people must continue to do respectability politics because it's important to get laws passed. Because when laws don't get passed, yes, the white person's life is still gonna be fine, but the black people in the diaspora will suffer.
So, the popular critique. And I want to remind our audience because I'm a debate. I'm gonna do my thing, but this is not necessarily his opinion, not necessarily mine. Right? We're just representing two sides of the argument, and to represent my side accurately, I must say, you sir are a coward because the real change is brought forth by those who are mavericks, pioneers, right? And so when I think back on black legislators, I see a legacy of black men and women who are genuinely fearless. Even Barack Hussein Obama, fearless in saying, especially on racial issues, what the fact of the matter is and what needs to change, and to the end of getting results. So when Barack Obama responds positively to Black Lives Matter and seeks the Department of Justice on Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland. When Barbara Jordan is sitting in the Texas legislature, when a Wilhelmina Delco, you may or may not know, a sister from Austin, big afro, beautiful afro, at least back in the 70s and 80s, represented Austin, Texas, and with that seat advocated for not reparations, but more fair allocation of funds to Prairie View A&M University, our shared alma mater. Now, she went into the room with people that, and maybe not the same people, but the same offices that I'm familiar with, which are very much aware of the sordid history of segregation in education, and told them flat out, Purview is entitled to this money. As a matter of fact, the only reason that their university, because she wasn't even an alumna herself, the only reason they don't have this money is because of segregation. And segregation's over. So where's the money at? Right? And we can see this in small examples all over the country, especially in education, where black people say, look, I live here. So where is the money at? And the checks were ran. Right? Over and over again. And they look black. And that's another key thing. Barack Obama, tall, dark, and handsome dude. By our standards, light skinned. But, he had his own aesthetic. He did his thing. He's a president. Cool. But Al Green is not playing respectability politics with anything. Kente stole over the shoulders. Very black man. And it does not only does it stop him because he's good at his job, but it is something that set precedent for those coming behind him as he trails a path for African Americans in Congress.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a point against, and then we'll go to my personal view, right? So we can kind of wrap this up. Doing respectability politics doesn't mean you can't state the facts of the matter, right? So doing respectability politics many times means that I'm going to frame it in a way that you can digest it, but I'm going to still tell you the facts. If I'm talking to Republicans and I'm talking about why Purview needs more money, right? So I'm not going to be like, respectability-wise, I'm going to be like, A&M's got blood on his hands and he needs to run that check. It's going to be like, well, you guys are that's a sister school. You're supposed to be all in one fight together. They're in the Constitution. This is the money they're owed, right? This ain't the facts of the matter. And then I do that in a way to put some honey on this scene that's going to be very hard for them, right? That's like respectability politics telling us, right? If I have to walk to the room to Republicans telling them that we need to really allocate funds for the police, right? I'm not going to say defund the police because, they're not going to hear that. But I'll be like, hey, black people getting killed. You saw the George Floyd video. You didn't like that. We need to do something about that. So therefore, how about we reallocate funds, retrain these officers, do these things needs to be done, right? My personal opinion, right? It's my personal opinion, real quick. In everyday life, be black. Do you. Be black. In politics, though, I think there is a lane for respectability politics, right? So, I think there's a lane for people to to throw respectability politics to the wind. I think AOC is necessary in the Democratic House,
yes,
right? Because she is so she can say the things that need to be said.
Yes,
and she can take the heat from the Republicans. Fox News can run her face all day long. She's in a blue seat that's going to stay blue. She's good. She's protected from them, right? But with her doing that hard work, gives cover for the people who are Democrats in red states. A Democratic person who's in Florida, who's in Ohio, or who's in North Carolina, right? One of these purple seats, right? More red-leaning seats, right?
Yeah.
She can say the things that are hard to be said, and they can come in with the honey and be like, well, you want to work with me. You don't want AOC work with me.
She said defund.
Yeah.
I just want to redistribute some of the money, plus spread it around. Little did does a Republican know, or does whatever obstructionist person know? That was the plan all along.
Yeah, so there's a reason, Malcolm X is necessary because he can say the wild things, and Martin Luther King can talk to Lyndon Johnson, right? And those two things are in tandem. I don't think we get the Civil Rights Act if we don't have Malcolm X saying what he says, right?
Yeah, and he gins up a lot of black pride and people wanting to be militaristic, some would like to say, but I would oppose that idea and just say it was a pride and a self-respect that rejects all of the oppression. If I think about myself a certain way, then I can no longer tolerate this oppression. And then when Martin Luther King calls on me to go to Washington to make a show so that the federal government can see how much support there is, then we're all there.
Yeah, and so I think it's necessary, right? So I think there's, as our movement mentors, Frank Jackson said, there are tree shakers, there are jelly makers. I think respectability politics, for the jelly makers, something they have to consider, right? But sometimes the tree shakers just need to shake the damn tree. Just get to it, right? And get people to hear the things they don't want to hear.
I mean, it's really just a do you.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the key where a lot of people on the internet are keen to police others' behavior because we do want to work together toward a common goal. So I think we should criticize and critique. But at the same time, there are many lanes. There are many lanes. There are 8 on a track and field track, and that is just, for high schoolers to run around in circles, right? Yeah. So in real life, there's just so many dimensions that you can go and attack a particular issue on. And where, one may be yelling in the street or painting the street with Black Lives Matter. Another can be meeting with the mayor, meeting with the governor, and laying out a plan that accomplishes those goals, but maybe doesn't say BLM, even though I want to say it so bad. Yeah. Because it's true. The Black Lives do matter. But if that's going to stop us from getting the legislation that actually values lives, then I gotta value the lives themselves, the beating hearts, real people, over the language. Yeah.
I would say, if you're gonna throw Respectability Politics to the wind, you better be good. You gotta be cold at your job, right? So if I'm coming with the hair as God gave it to me, right? Then you better be cold, because they're gonna use it as a way to be against you. But if you're cold and you're good, what can they say? What can they say if you're good? Anyway, I'm Antonius Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
This is Kind of a Podcast. See you guys next week.
Do it to him,